Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and today's video is all about Concord 9th's March 2021 release. I was super excited to get to guest design for them this month because then I can share with you all the products that are included in this month's release. Plus, Concord 9th is one of my favorite small card making businesses, so this is part of my Support Small Card Making Businesses series. This release is fantastic. It includes a brand new TurnAbout stamp, a triple step stamp and die bundle that creates the most gorgeous floral heart design. I think my favorite is the Plaid die bundle. 2 dies. You can use the dies individually or layer them together to create the most textured, gorgeous colored plaid backgrounds. There's a safari bundle for new baby cards and a seasonal branches bundle, which is perfect for spring and beyond. I'm also going to be using their ink cube collection. I love the colors. They're very sophisticated, modern, and fresh. The other great thing about their color collection is that they have cardstock to match their ink cubes, and I'll be using that as well. So let's just dive right into the card making. I'll be sure to share which products I'm using at the time. The Plaid card front bundle comes with a thin die and a thick die. The seasonal stamp set has all these gorgeous leaves and a matching die with some sentiments. So I first cut out the thick Plaid card front die out of Sprout cardstock and then cut the thin out of Aqua Sky. And these two colors together are my favorites, I think, from the whole color collection. I just love how bright and beautiful they are. And I am going to layer them over white cardstock. So that's going to bring in a third color. So I'm just using tape runner. I'm working on a mini media mat, which is non-stick. So the extra adhesive I'll just rub away later. And I'm just going to lay it down on an A2 piece of white cardstock. And you could just use this as is. I love just one layer. I think it is so pretty. I'm also using tape runner behind the thin one as well. A little trickier, but you can make it work. So you don't have to pull out the liquid glue if you don't want to. And then check that out. So much texture, color, and the beautiful pattern. And it was so fast and easy to do, just die cut it out. Okay, so I am going to use this seasonal branches stamp and die set. I'm going to use the Thinking of You die, which is very thin. So I'm going to use some Thermoweb iCraft Easy Cut adhesive behind the Midnight cardstock. So I'm going to peel off one protective layer of the Easy Cut, and I'm going to lay an A2 piece of the Midnight cardstock, the messier side, down onto that open adhesive there. Then I'm just going to replace the protective layer and use some non-stick scissors to cut away the excess. This is the easiest way that I know to adhere those really thin scripty dies. So now you have the adhesive on the back and the cardstock on the front, and it's time to die cut it out. I'm going to put the cutting side facing the cardstock color. I also like to use a metal shim when I'm doing this much thin die cutting, and especially with the extra layer. Okay, now I'm going to stamp out some of those leaves from the seasonal branches stamp set. And I am again using Sprout for the main part of the leaf. These are some layering stamps, but they're very, very simple. Just 2 steps and you can create some really detailed, pretty looking leaves. So for the veins of the leaves, I'm going to use the Clover ink, which is a slightly darker green. And I love with the ink cube set that you get a light, you get a medium, you get a dark of most of these colors. And they are just, like I said in the beginning, very modern, fresh, sophisticated colors that go really well with the Concord 9th designs of their stamps and their dies. So there's another little leaf set here, and I love how you get a smaller size and then a larger size. That makes it really easy to create little clusters of leaves as embellishments, and it's just really fun to play with. So somebody asked me what I like to use with cleaning my stamps. For these inks, I just use a dry microfiber towel that just the ink comes right off. It's that slightly different formulation of dye ink that is very easy to clean off of a stamp. I'm also going to do 2 of the little flowers, and for the flower centers, I'm using Oceanside. I believe for the flowers themselves, I used Sea Glass, which is a little bit different than the Aqua Sky. It's got a little more green to it, I think, and it's a little less aqua. So that makes sense. Now I'm just going to put the dies down onto the cardstock and cut them out. And here I cut out 2 layers of the Thinking of You. And since they have the adhesive right on the back, it is basically just a peel and stick at this point, which I really like. This saves me a lot of time trying to fit liquid glue behind those tiny little letters. This is my preferred way, like I mentioned, of using these types of dies. For the second layer, just go one letter at a time, and you'll be able to line them up. It's really not that difficult at all. It just takes a little bit of patience to make sure that they're perfectly lined up on top of each other. And now that really stands out. And as I mentioned, those little leaf and flower clusters are really easy to create because you have 2 different sizes of the leaf, of each leaf and each flower. So I'm just going to use some foam squares to pop those guys up. And these colors and the pattern of the plaid in the background, so much fun to work with. And then to be able to combine the ink colors, the same types of colors in the inks as well, just makes a really pulled together card very simple. I decided I had not had enough yet of that plaid card front die, so I'm cutting the thick die out of ballet slipper cardstock, and I'm gonna use tape runner once again. I'm going to layer it over an actual color this time rather than over white. So I am going to use tape runner behind the plaid card front thick die that I cut out of the ballet slipper. Again, I'm working on that mini media mat that's non-stick, and then just line it up onto an A2 piece of honeysuckle cardstock. Now you could totally cut part of this so that you're only using half of the die. I really love how easy this is to create texture and color and that plaid pattern just by using it right on an A2. So for my thin layer, I decided to use some glitter cardstock to share just how fun these can be if you add in, say, metallics or glitter. It just adds an extra bit of wow to this. I'm going to use the mushroom ink to stamp from the seasonal branch stamp set, that long branch. It's really pretty and delicate, and there's a matching die to cut it out as well. But that mushroom ink is really nice because it has kind of a gray, little aspects of brown, not quite black, and it's just a fun color for the branch and for sentiments as well. I'm also going to cut out some of those little berries, and they give you 3 different assortments of berries. I cut those all out twice. I'm using a heart die that you're going to see later in the video to stamp the sentiment on that left-hand side. I love these sentiments. They're unique and really pretty, and I just love the font as well. So I put a little bit of adhesive behind the die cut out stamped branch. I'm going to put that on the right hand side of the heart. And then I'm going to have fun using some half pieces of foam squares to pop up all the berries and then arrange them on the branch. Now, you can have empty branches, you can have a berry on every single branch. It's kind of up to you. I liked a couple of the empty branches for spring. It's like berries are just starting to bloom, but you can arrange them however you want. You could leave the branch empty. That's how it really can be any season. And I just adore the plaid with those berries as well. I love how you can get such a different look using the same stamp set and background dies in these 2 different cards. Now we're going to move on to the triple step blooming heart stamp. This is a very easy layering stamp set, and I'm going to show you exactly why once we stamp it out. But check out the back of the packaging shares what you can create with just 3 layers and 3 different colors of ink. The die set comes with a flag, an outline stitched heart, and an inner piece that cuts out all those little flowers. Okay, so first starting with the heart, you can see there's a tiny little arrow that I'm pointing out here. That's how you know you're working with the top of the stamp in the right spot. It's not really to line up the actual images. Those are really easy to do, but just so that you know what is the top of the stamp and what's kind of the center of the heart. Okay, so the first layer here, I am stamping in Aqua Sky. And you could definitely get more detailed and stamp like the leaves in one color and the flowers another color. I didn't want to mess around with that. This is just a pretty design if you even just use 3 colors. So see how I'm lining up the next layer? Super simple. I have the arrow in the center, but the flowers, it's pretty obvious where they go on top of the stems. So for this layer, I'm using the grapefruit ink. The Aqua Sky and grapefruit look so good together. I couldn't even believe it. Just already with one stamped layer, I just couldn't believe how gorgeous those 2 colors look together. But I did decide to double stamp. That's why I'm working in my MISTI. It also makes it easier to line everything up so that I don't have to do that through an acrylic block. So any kind of stamp positioner would make this much easier to do, but it's not 100% necessary. It just makes it easier. For the last layer, I am using Buttercup ink. Again, these 3 colors together make me so happy. I can't even explain why. I need to use more of these 3 colors together, I think. So I put the die on the outside of that, very easy to do as well, and cut that out. I cut out the flag out of white cardstock, and here you can see I'm just going to line the magnet of the MISTI up at the top where the stamp is not going to go, and I put the sentiment, which is pretty thin, right on top of my die cut. This was for me the easiest way to get this done, get it done straight, and be able to double stamp the mushroom ink on top. Once again, I am going to put some tape runner behind the thin plaid die. I'm only using the thin, and I'm using the same color as the background this time. So I've shared a couple of different ways to use this. This time I'm really just using it for the texture of it, and absolutely amazing. I love the look of color on color there. And then just pop up the heart that we die cut with all the stamping in between. And you can see in the middle of that heart, there's the perfect place. You could stamp the sentiment right on there, or you could use the flag to pop that up on top. I had so much fun making this card, and it just makes me unreasonably happy. Okay, so now we're going to use some pink, that's the ballet slipper cardstock. I die cut the heart this time using the die without any stamping, and I'm going to layer it over the outline die that has the stitch lines as well to create some honeysuckle background there. So I have ballet slipper over the dove cardstock and then white cardstock over the honeysuckle. And I just love these 3 colors together. And then this time I'm just going to stamp the sentiment at the top of the heart. It's another sentiment from the stamp set, and I'm using it in mushroom ink. And again, just with the dies, the stamps, and just some ink and some cardstock, those cards were so much fun to make. Last but not least, I did want to share the TurnAbout stamp for this release because it's really fun. It's called the Alphabet Soup TurnAbout stamp. It works really well with that safari bundle there. So I am going to use 4 different colors of ink. I'm going to use ballet slipper. I'm going to use honeysuckle. I'm going to use grapefruit and sorbet. So I've shared in a video before, and I'll link to it up in the right-hand corner, that this piece of plastic that they now give with the TurnAbout stamps makes them very easy to line up and use. I'm also going to be using an A2 piece of ballet slipper cardstock. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take the stamp off the backing there and then line it up on that plastic piece that says this side up and make sure that you can read that. And once you have that all lined up, you are ready to put it inside your stamp positioner using your TurnAbout jig. Now the TurnAbout jig is another piece of plastic that is, again, genius. It's got these little cut line corners that show you exactly where to put an A2 piece of white cardstock so that you don't have to use a 6x6 piece if you're not going to end up using one on your card. So then line up your stamp with your plastic on your jig and then peel off that plastic and you're ready to stamp it up. Now, you would think using cubes would be difficult with these large background stamps, but because the TurnAbout has images in very specific places, it's not like you need to ink up the entire TurnAbout. You really, especially for this one, just need to ink up the letters. So it is quite easy to use the cubes with specifically this TurnAbout stamp because you can just move around and make sure that each letter is inked up. And it's okay if you get some ink on the other places because the letters are raised enough that you're not going to stamp the places that you don't want stamping done. So it's okay to use a large stamp pad and just get ink all over the TurnAbout, but you don't have to use the large stamp pad. You can get away with using the cubes here. And the great thing about this is that the jig is the only thing that you need to rotate. So you just continue to rotate the jig like this, turn it clockwise. This is my 4th rotation, so I missed a few, sorry about that. But just rotate that jig and then stamp. Ink it up in a different color and then stamp. And I just love how quick and easy it is to create these multicolored pattern backgrounds using their TurnAbout stamps. They're absolutely brilliant. So I just did want to share that the Safari bundle comes with some really sweet sentiments and some safari animals that you can use to stamp in different colors because they're filled in stamps. These are not stamps that you would stamp and then color in with markers or pencils. These are filled in stamps, which make it really quick and easy because all you need to do is ink them up. So I didn't want to spend a ton of time just showing you that because you can all do that yourselves, but I did want to show you the cards that I created. For this first one, I used the alphabet background that we created with the TurnAbout and then stamped some of the animals and added some Tonic Studio Nouveau Crystal Glaze on top. For this one, I used the sentiments and the moon and stars from the Safari set, no animals, and just some different colors of ink and cardstock. And for this last one here, I used the alphabet TurnAbout in blues and greens, then stamped the animals in blues and greens and added some, again, colorful cardstock. Super simple. These are a lot of fun to create with. If you love seeing new products from small card making businesses, be sure to hit like so that I know, and subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified every time I have a new video available. As always, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. A triple step statement. Oh my gosh. Small card making businesses.